Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha The any journey in the spiritual path, good that you have raised this. The one question that we have to ask ourselves is am I getting anywhere? Because there is no milepost, there is no signpost which is telling you 10 kilometers left, 20 kilometers left. There is no speedometer. There is nothing that is measuring you and telling you that you are progressing. So how do you know that you have progressed? It can only happen through introspection and seeing how has your three things. How has your relationship with yourself changed? Your relationship with yourself is because today there are two entities inside me. One, the external entity, the internal entity which I am blind to. Have I started waking up to the fact that at least there is some internal entity which is different from me? Even that, if it has come, then a certain degree of progress has happened. Second is, how am I interacting with the world? In the sense, the world is there. It cannot be negated. Even Adi Shankaracharya does not negate the world. When he says mithya, he doesn't mean that it does not exist. He means that it is eternally changeable. So that eternal changing outside, how is it now affecting me? And three, equally important, and Gurudev used to stress on this one, how are you interacting with that world? How are you affecting that world? Are you leaving it a better place spiritually? How are you leaving it a better place? Which is why even our rishis put it down in a very beautiful way. They called it Shat Sampat. Those Shat Sampat, if we have acquired, have I acquired Titiksha? Right? Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Titikshaswa. He tells Arjuna, right? Nistray gunya bhava, titikshaswa bhava. Titikshaswa. Acquire that tolerance that is required. Have we acquired tolerance or are we still that intolerant? I'm just watching some reel popped up on Instagram. The MNS people have gone around breaking the signboards of people who have not put up their name of their shop in Hindi script, in Marathi script. This is a degree of intolerance which is completely ununderstandable. Now, I'm not saying that they are right, they are wrong. I am not here to judge anybody. The question is, do we look at our own behavior and see how much are we being intolerant? How much of tolerance do we have? Tolerance, however, does not mean that I have to be very Christian in my approach, turn the other cheek, let people come and keep slapping me. No, that is not what is tolerance. Arjuna is not being told to tolerate evil. He is not being told to tolerate injustice. He is being told to tolerate the differences between people. लोगों को एब्जॉर्ब करने के लिए, लोगों को इंक्लूड करने के लिए आजकल बहुत लंबा लंबा लेक्चर होता है बड़े बड़े ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में. दे कॉल इट डाइवर्सिटी, इक्वालिटी एंड इंक्लूजन, DEI, and people have started making crores of rupees on that also by making training on DEI and so on and so forth. ये हम तो पहले दिन से बोल रहे हैं. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not just words, no? So the question that Raghuji has raised is a very important question. When we look at ourselves and we look at our journey, and I mean, if you want to take the trouble of actually documenting that journey, wonderful. It is something that everybody can learn from, because we are all on the same journey. कोई स्लो है, कोई फास्ट है, और हमारा स्लोनेस और फास्टनेस जो भी है वो तो हमारे वासनाओं के कारण है ना. And Vishu's vasanas for gulab jamun cannot affect my vasanas for rasgulla. अब ही इज ऑल्सो इन बॉम्बे, आई एम ऑल्सो इन बॉम्बे, दोनों रसगुल्ला भी नहीं अच्छा मिलता है, अच्छा गुलाब जामुन भी अच्छा नहीं मिलता है, चलो दोनों जन को भुगतना पड़ेगा ना, अपना अपने वासनाओं को लेके बैठे रहो. Our vasanas is what is pulling us down. So you have to realize that you cannot compare. ये जर्नी में कभी कंपैरिजन नहीं होता है, इस जर्नी में कभी कंपटीशन नहीं होता है, इस जर्नी में सिर्फ सपोर्ट होता है, सिर्फ सपोर्ट होता है, ओनली सपोर्ट. एंड दैट इज व्हाई दीज सत्संग्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट. That is why in these satsangs, when you raise questions, when you raise doubts, when you raise your introspection. So coming back to this particular text that we are talking about, it's a wonderful text, and it is not a text for reading and chanting. It's a text for manan. Every shloka is a direction towards introspection. We were, I think, last that we did, Vishu, can you remind me? I think we were at 26 or 27, right? Although I think Raghuji had some question on 22, but I'm not sure as to whether he's there. He's had something to move. So, Vishu, 26. Okay, you had a question on 22, you said.
Yes. So, actually, on 22, he says about the light of illumination from the consciousness. And he mentions that it's different from the light of the external flame or that. And I was looking at the explanation given by Gurudev in the and it struck me a bit that if I go back to what Adi Shankara says, I feel that he just wants to point out that he's using the term light as a metaphor.
Of course.
And there are differences in the way consciousness works and the way light works to make us perceive things. Okay. So I was reading through the explanation by Gurudev, and I felt, but why you first take the metaphor, you use light as a metaphor, and then you start. Of course, there's going to be differences because light is not consciousness. And to me, the statement made by Adi Shankaracharya is very obvious. It's very clear. And I don't think he dwells too much on that either. He just wants to make the point for people to realize that he is using light only as a metaphor. So
you have to realize, of course.
Yeah.
So, of course, light is a metaphor. Anything that we use to describe the Atman is a metaphor. Because it is anirvachaniya. कंप्लीटली अनडिस्क्राइबेबल. जिस चीज को डिस्क्राइब नहीं किया जा सकता है, जिसको माइंड नहीं परसीव कर सकता है, फॉरगेट द आईज, even the mind cannot perceive, the manasti, buddhi cannot perceive, how can I even describe it? So all I can do is I can keep approaching it. So even in Brahma Sutra, what did he say? He took us to the subtlest of the Panchatattvas. He took us to the subtlest of the Panchatattvas, and in that subtlest of the Panchatattvas, Akasha, he explained, the Akasha appears to be blue, the Akasha appears to be clouded, the Akasha appears to be dull, or it appears to be dark. All of these are all appearances. You'll have to excuse me for 1 second. There is something that has...
Excuse me for 1 minute. There is something Karina Kanga.
एक मिनट उसमें जरा सुसु कर
क्या पंखा चला?
I am very sorry. I will also get interrupted once more. There is, we had given the car for servicing and it's apparently just going to come back. So I'll have to do something at the gate to get it inside. So sorry for that. So coming back to this metaphor thing that we are talking about, see, the easiest example that he uses, and I always use this, when you wake up after a beautiful sleep, just ask yourself in that morning, who slept? And how do you know that you slept? Because if your intellect wasn't functioning, if your mind wasn't functioning, if your body wasn't functioning, and they were all functioning at a very subconscious level. I am sorry, this has to be taken.
%43 છે. ચાલશે ને? કાઢી લઉં છું પછી પાછી મૂકીશ. પાછો ગયો છે એની ગાડી સર્વિસિંગમાં આપવા આવ્યો છે કહેશે કે
પેલો કાં છે ડ્રાઈવર?
મિનિટ આવે એટલે પછી કાઢું છું.
Can I be heard? हेलो, सुनाई दे रहा है क्या?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, audible, audible.
Yeah. So coming back to this, the text itself. If you look at the text, every line in this text is meant for Manan. I think we were at 26, if I'm not mistaken. So it says 26 says Niramayo, Nirabhaso, Nirvikalpo, Aham Atataha. So here he says, where I am all pervading. All pervading. Now, again, interesting example used by Tejavanandi here when he was doing this explanation. You are walking and your toe stubs against a stone. When your toe stubs against a stone, what happens? What do you do? क्या करते हैं? What do you do if your toe has stubbed against a stone and very badly? I mean, it's hurting.
You feel pain.
You feel pain.
Cut.
See your language. It's not your toe feeling pain. Your language, you feel pain. Atataha. All pervading. I am all pervading through this body. Right? The moment my toe got hit, I said, I feel pain. That's our language. Because I am all pervading. Just exactly as my consciousness pervades through this entire body. Keshadi pada paryanta. From the
but
hair.
the neuroscientists will say that See, there are neurons running the length and breadth of our
Whatever.
body and all leading back to the
brain.
central nervous system.
Yeah,
So,
and the brain doesn't feel pain. And the brain doesn't feel pain.
The
So
brain
is
itself
saying-
doesn't feel pain because there are no neurons leading there. Okay.
Correct.
So it is the seat at which the perceptions are done, right? So the fact that the toe gets stubbed, and you know, you can go on to say a person who is amputated his foot often can feel as if he can wiggle his toes
It's
and
called
everything because
Yeah,
the
it's called-
neurons that ended at the toes are the part of the neuron is still there in the body, and
so the
get
ghost
feelings.
neuron, the ghost,
Yeah, ghost
the
limb,
ghost, the ghost limb. It is called the ghost limb. This whole concept of therefore, where is this whole? Where are we identified with? Therefore, when I say I am feeling pain, you are identified with the body. The whole of you is you. The whole of you is you. Exactly the same way, Brahman occupies this entire consciousness. This entire consciousness occupies everything, is what he means when he says atataha. Niramayaha. Amaya, ama, and in Ayurveda is illness. Niramayaha is the meaning of devoid of illness. Now, what is illness? What is the meaning of being devoid of illness? Any thoughts here?
Functioning
disease.
perfectly.
You're no disease, nothing. You're perfectly.
Where can disease occur?
The body.
Only in the body or in the mind, right? A worst case scenario, even in the intellect, let us say. Sometimes you have intellectual disease. So the disease means that there is a change that has happened. If I am unchanging, so it is therefore material. So when it says niramayaha, you have to think in terms of, when you're doing manan, you're thinking in terms of what in me has not changed at all. Nir abhasaha. Abhasa means that which has appearance. Abha means to glow. See, you are able to see because I am reflecting light. If I am not reflecting light, you cannot see me. Right? Physics ka black hole kya hai? You cannot see a black hole. You can only perceive its existence by what are happening outside it in what is called the event horizon. Right? Raghuji can correct me if I'm wrong. But you cannot see a black hole because it is absorbing everything. Similarly, I am available to you in sight because I am reflecting light. Abhasaha. Right? So from abha, the abhasaha, that which is perceivable. Nir abhasaha, that which does not have any appearance. That which does not have any appearance. Where do I exist? Where is me in this entire body? There is no appearance. It does not look like a finger. It does not look like a toe. It does not look like a hand. So where am I existing? So these are all questions that we need to ask. So it is whenever you are looking at these verses, and he has made it very simple because the second line of the verse is keeping on repeating the same thing. Naham deho ryasad grupo jnanam ityuchyate budhaihi. He keeps on repeating this. Right? For the next 4 or 5 shlokas, he will keep on repeating this. Niramayo nirabhaso nirvikalpo hamat tataha nirvikalpaha. Vikalpa means that which has no modifications. No modifications. So since I am presently occupied with my body, mind, intellect, let me look at myself and try and find out, is there me concentrated more somewhere? But we just saw in this example where my foot stubbed against a toe, it did not happen. I did not have a differentiation, right? Or let's take a even better example. You have got some itchy eye. You take off your glasses, you put your finger, you start rubbing your eyes, and by mistake, your finger goes inside the lid, and your eye gets hurt. What do? You take your finger and you start hitting it. Why not? Because this is also me and my eye is also me. And the me I'm going to sound like somebody who I really admire for the confusing statements he makes. I'm sure you will pick up who I'm talking about. The me in my finger and the me in my eye are the same.
I know.
Recently,
I'm sorry.
he seemed to resurface.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't intend to do this. So but I think, I mean, sorry, deviation, but my son puts it very nicely. He says, see, that person, he has had an experience. His inability to express that experience in words which we can even understand is where he's getting stuck. It's not that he's possibly not experienced, and that's possibly true. That is a very fair expression of possibly where that gentleman is, leaving aside all the other shenanigans of Kailasa and all that. So now the point is, coming back to each of these lines, let us look at again the line Niramaya, Nirabhasa, Nirvikalpa, Atataha. We have looked at all the 4 qualifications. He goes on in verse number 27. Keeps on repeating the na, nirguna, which is very similar to what we saw in the Nirvana Shatakam. It is very similar to what we are seeing in the Chandogya Upanishad of na iti, neti, neti. Chandogya Upanishad also goes through it is not this, it is not this, it is not this. Now the problem with it is not this is it's a very devious problem. I'll explain why. I start negating everything. So what are you left with? I negate everything. I reach to a point where everything has got negated. What are you left with? Hello, silence.
The only thing that cannot be negated.
See, only
But
the
I
matter
have-
principle
No,
has been negated. There is an inner core principle which is still not negated.
But
And-
now you are speaking from a certain degree of understanding of scriptural knowledge. Let us take up somebody who is a complete lay person, who has never read any of the Upanishads, not read the Gita, not read the Bible, not read any Buddhist scripture, and you get him to actually do this exercise of neti. What will he land up with? He will land up with what is called shunya.
Shunya.
He will land up with what is called shunya. Why? Because the intellect is still working. While the intellect has been negated, I am not the intellect, मगर intellect बुद्धि काम तो कर रही है. It is working. So it is going to therefore say, postulate a very interesting concept of shunya. And therefore, shunya is the reality. Nothingness is the reality, is what the Buddhists arrived at through the same process. And that is why they are also called asatvada. Asatvada. This does not exist. This world does not exist. That is not Mayavada. Mayavada says that this world exists, but it is existing as a projection. It is fully existing. When we go and see a movie, the movie is existing, right? It is there. The movie is visible. I can see it. I can hear it. I can see the songs. I'm whistling when the hero comes in, right? All of that is happening. So all of that which is projecting is actually real. So hence that asatvad is a danger that we can suffer from, we can get into, we can get trapped into. Hence here he says, nirguno, nishkriyo, nityo. The word nitya changes it from the asatvad to something that exists. Nitya by definition means eternal. Now shunya by definition cannot be eternal. Shunya is a vacuum which gets filled up. So eternal, if something is eternal, it has to exist to be eternal. So here he uses the word nitya, nirguna, nishkriya, nitya, nitya mukta aham achyutaha. Achyutaha. Achyuta is a name for Vishnu. So what does it mean? Anybody, any idea?
सबके बीच में रहते हुए तो लिप्त नहीं होते हैं.
Sorry?
सबके बीच में रहते हुए वो निर्लिप्त रहते हैं, इसलिए
Okay.
अच्युत कहा गया.
Absolutely right. He who is not entangled, unentangled, is Achyuta. Right? When you do Achamanam, according to the Krishna Yajurveda, what do you start with? Achyutaya Namaha, Anantaya Namaha, Govindaya Namaha, Achyutaya Namaha. I am internally complete and yet not entangled with anything. I am eternal and endless. And my senses are in my control, Govindaha. I am not my senses. I am not the physical body, mind, intellect. That is why when I'm taking my Achamanam, I am cleansing my internal entanglements that have happened all over. Achyutaya Namaha, Anantaya Namaha, Govindaya Namaha. Right? So hence he uses the word. There is a typo over there in this particular text.
In the
it is a typo.
He calls it Uchyate rather than
No, it's a typo. It is a typo. It's a typo. It is Achyutaha. And then in the original text,
and it is given the meaning also wrong because it's taken Uchyate and then called it as called.
Yeah, so that is an editor's job. But anyway, it is the typo is Achyutaha.
I have the Chimya Mission's book. There it is Achyuta only written. Achyuta.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So in the book, in the original book, it has been written as Achyutaha, and then later on in some later edition, it became Uchyate. So it's a typo. So make the change if you're having a physical book, because Uchyate is at the second line. Uchyate is Jnaninam Jnanam Ityuchyate. That is what the second line will say. Right. So now let us look at these words. Nirgunaha. What is Nirgunaha? What is the guna? We know the three gunas, right? Triguna. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, or rather Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. Now, Sattva is also important. All the three gunas are important. Without the three gunas, this world cannot exist. Everything comes out of these three gunas. In the Kalika Puran, in the Devi Bhagavata, as well as the Kalika Puran, and one more, I've forgotten which one. Three of the Shakta Puranas, they describe as to how creation happened. So the Nirgunam, Brahman, when it first took a Saguna form, it took the form of what is called Adi Lakshmi. It took the form of Adi Lakshmi. This is the Shakta Puranas. So the first formation was in the form of the Divine Mother. And since it has form, it automatically is already entangled, right? It has become Maya. Hence, it is feminine. And then, however, she is Triguna Mayi at that point of time. And then she radiates the three gunas out of her. So the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, they again form three Devis. These three again split into two parts, the male part and the female part. And then they intermarry. So Vishnu marries Lakshmi and so on and so forth. So there is Adi Lakshmi. Adi Lakshmi splits into Maha Gauri, Maha Saraswati, and Maha Lakshmi. Then each of these split into Lakshmi and so on and so forth, and then they intermarry, and therefore the entire cosmos gets created. So if this is the process, you can make out that this entire cosmos of whatever we are seeing is nothing but a play of the gunas. In us also, he is a sattvic person. Yes, he is a sattvic person till he gets angry. When he gets angry, then he becomes rajasic. Then when he is sleeping and he is to wake up in the morning, he becomes tamasic. We all have these differences of gunas happening to us across our day. Forget our lifetime. So in this changing continuous gunas, of play of gunas that we are, what is it that is not changing? Ask that question. That is the nirguna. That is the question. That is the atma vichara that we have to do. Nishkriyaha. What is kriya? What is action? What is action?
Everything we are doing, this is the action.
Right. Action का मतलब क्या? Again, action का मतलब change. Action का मतलब change. मैं हाथ हिला रहा हूं. इसका मतलब change है ना? हाथ का पोजीशन यहां था, यहां से यहां गया, यहां से यहां आया, अंदर की एनर्जी चेंज हुई. All of that has happened. Change. निष्क्रियः. हाथ कौन हिला रहा है? मैं हिला रहा हूं. मैं कौन?
चेतना।
तो अगेन वही ना, तो वही वही आत्म विचार, जब तक मैं उसके तक नहीं पहुंच सकता हूं, जब तक मैं बैठकर, सो व्हेन आई एम सिटिंग इन माय सीट ऑफ मेडिटेशन एंड आई हैव नाउ स्टार्टेड डूइंग आत्म विचार, व्हिच मींस आई हैव कम टू चैप्टर 6 ऑफ भगवद गीता, आई हैव लर्नड हाउ टू सिट, right? I have become nishkama, I have become what is called a karma yogi. I have done jnana karma sannyasa, I have done karma sannyasa. I am no longer affected by what is outside. From the yogic system, I have done pratyahara. I am not affected by who rings the bell, who is coming, who is not coming. कॉफी का बास आ रहा है, अच्छा अभी आज को कॉफी कैसी मिलेगी पता नहीं, आज को तो कॉफी बनाने वाला ही नहीं आया था, तो दूसरा कोई बना रहा है, कैसे बनाएगा पता नहीं, राइट? और उसको पता नहीं है कि मेरे मेरे कॉफी में चीनी नहीं देना है. तो ये सारा जो चलता, ये है प्रत्याहार. इससे मेरी जब माइंड अंदर आ जाती है, देन आई हैव मैनेज टू ब्रिंग कट आउट व्हाट इज आउटसाइड. देन देयर इज धारणा. धारणा इज टू ट्रेन द माइंड टू बी एबल टू कॉन्सेंट्रेट. ओनली देन कैन वी गो टू ध्यान, एंड ध्यान इज दिस इज ध्यान, दिस इज मेडिटेशन. Meditation is not sitting with a japamala. Japamala is only training your mind to learn to make it sit in one place. 84 लाख योनियों की ट्रेनिंग को इस जन्म में खत्म करना है. 84 लाख योनियों की ट्रेनिंग है इसको, कूदने की, छलांग मारने की. एक सेकंड में प्लूटो, it will reach Pluto, it will reach Andromeda galaxy in one fraction of a second. यक्ष प्रश्न के अंदर में Yudhishthir is asked, what is it that is faster than the wind? At that point of time, possibly the fastest thing visible or in the material world was wind. What is faster than the wind? And Yudhishthir spontaneously answers, it is the mind. Right? Our rishis knew that. Our mind can do lots of things. It can do positive things, it can do negative things. But one thing it cannot do is to remain still. That is what we need to train. So when you are doing Soham Japa, whether you are doing Om Namah Shivaya Japa, whether you are doing some other mantra, it doesn't matter. Mananat prayati iti mantraha. It is only to get your mind to be disciplined to move to some other level. In the tantric method, mantra has a different meaning. It has a different application. I am not getting there. I am not. We are following the Advaitic path. In the tantric method, in Sri Vidya, the mantra has a completely different approach. But for us, mantra means that which is enabling me to keep my mind concentrated. Then we get to dharana, and now my intellect can be fully concentrated and applied to this questioning. When I say nirguna, what is nirguna? ये निर्गुण कौन है? ये नित्य कौन है? Who is it that is nitya? Who is it that is nitya mukta? Not only is it nitya, it is also nitya mukta. Why is it nitya mukta? Why is it ever free? Because it is not limited by anything. Na? It is not limited by change. It is eternally existing. So for that matter, I think in the next shloka we will see that Nitya Mukta basically would mean that if we do not accept it, let us negate that. You know, in geometry, sometimes we used to do that theorem where if A is equal to B, let us first postulate that A is not equal to B, and then you prove that it cannot happen. So A has to be equal to B, right? Similarly, let us postulate for a minute that it is not Nitya Mukta. Then the question of what happens after death becomes completely an irrelevant question, isn't it? But that is a question that has haunted all of us for ages. Not only us, not this group of about 80, 90 people who are here on the group who are sharing some things, but I'm talking of this entire humanity has been bothered with this particular question, because it cannot be that you have evolved through so much to come here and say Ridam Kritva Gritam Pivet. Itni limitation mein kaise jiyenge? So that is the moment you say itni limitation, then you say, oh, so limitation nahi hona chahiye, Nitya Mukta. So using the principles of geometry, you say that if it cannot be bound, then it has to be liberated. Now then you ask, why is it limited? How is it limited? How is it unlimited? Vasamsi jirnani se sukhiki kijiye. Go back to Bhagavad Gita. Look at Vasamsi Jirnani. Look at the Brahma Sutra. And you start off by saying, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. After having come to a point where you have understood that the limitations of what I am suffering from are something which cannot be eternal. Because if they are eternal, तो फिर मैं वही शंकराचार्य का मेरा favorite verse पुनरपि जननम पुनरपि treadmill वाला मंत्र है. I call it the treadmill mantra. You are on a treadmill, you have to keep on running, going nowhere, and you keep saying punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jatame chayanam, punarapi jananam. Treadmill hai. Why be on a treadmill? Get off. Run your marathon. Then he says Nitya Mukta, and then after that he says.
But in other religions, especially Abrahamic religion, they don't believe in this eternity. So at the lower level, people don't understand the differences, so they feel that all the religions are same. But ours is very clearly, this is the base of our religion. I would say, at least all of us would say that this is the base of our religious belief. And how do we say that this is the? Of course, we all know that this has lived eternal itself. So it is the process. But how do we don't have to convince also anybody, but how do we, I'm not able to frame the question properly. How do we see that this is, how do firmly make it that this is the actual truth? Because nobody has seen death. Okay. Nobody has seen that. They are going by, I would say, this thing says it's not Aparoksha, it is Paroksha only. Okay.
So
Vishwanath, you are asking exactly the same question that my son asks. So
Okay.
how do you know that is real? And
No, we all have believed and we have gone ahead and we are still believing and we are, but how do we make a non-believer maybe understand that this it's a non-believer means to say that who does not believe that, because in the and two strong religion have advocated this to say that there is no life. You go and then God, for them, first of all, the externalization of God is which we do, which we can easily prove it that it is not externalization. It is, you're a part of that. But having done that, how do we prove these aspects? There is a life after that. See, we have all this three type of sarira, there's a cause, and all those things are there. But all those does not explain the fact that there is a life after that. They say that all of
So okay, let me first okay, I'll answer the question in three different ways. I'll try to answer the question in three different ways. Firstly, Bhagavad Gita very clearly says, don't try to confuse others.
Yeah, that's right.
so very clearly he has said that, right? So just do what you are supposed to do, and by being that, by living your values, you will be the leader, and people will follow you. Right? Follow your lifestyle, and you are a leader for somebody or the other. Maybe your son, maybe a person who drives your car. It doesn't matter. Somebody or the other is looking up to you, seeing how you live, and they will follow. So Krishna is very anti-conversion, anti-convincing others, very clearly. Now coming back to, is Advaita the only truth? Now the problem is that Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa put it very beautifully. He says, some call it water, some call it pani, some call it jal, some call it tanni, but it is the same thing. Right? Rigveda said it even before. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. Matarishwa, yama matarishwa vishwaswami. Right? Very clearly it said. Is the Christian truth the only truth? No truth is the only truth. All of us are only approximating to the truth. Like the asymptotic curve, we are all approximating to the truth. The truth is anirvachaniya. I cannot explain it to you. I cannot even give you that experience. I cannot even describe that experience. I can only tell you what led me to that experience. the beauty of Sanatana Dharma is that non-imposition. Yajnavalkya in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, what does he say? He says, I did step A, I did step B, I did step C, I did step D, I got step E. You can follow steps A to D. Most probably you will also land up at E. He never says that you will go to E. Nor does he say that step E is the right step for you. What is important is that understanding of the truth and experiencing the truth are completely two different things. When that oneness of vision has come, everything else changes. But that oneness of vision is to us through all scriptural learning. Now, the third answer to the third part of the answer, there will be 4 parts actually, not 3. The third part of the answer is what is pramana. Now, pramana itself has been analyzed deeply by our rishis. Pramana means proof. There are 3 levels of proof we are talking about. The first level of proof is, okay, Bhagavad Gita students, please, bataiye, what are the 3 levels of proof? Raghuji, Minaji, Parthoda, 3 proofs. ये कोई रिवीजन नहीं कर रहा है, आप लोग क्या कर रहे हो?
आत्म प्रमाण और
चलिए, एक आत्म प्रमाण, दूसरा first and foremost pratyaksha praman, that which I am experiencing, second apta praman, third shastra praman. When all 3 align, then we say yes, this could be the truth. We still don't say it is the truth, we only say it could be the truth. So pratyaksha praman. Now, I don't have pratyaksha praman of oneness. I don't have pratyaksha praman of nirguna, nitya mukta. मेरे पास नहीं है. तो क्या करूंगा मैं? तो मेरे पास दूसरे 2 प्रमाण है. आप्त प्रमाण है. I have been fortunate. मेरे पास गुरुदेव का प्रमाण है. साक्षात था. Clearly visible to me that he is sitting in that oneness. Right? आप्त प्रमाण. And वो जो बोल रहे हैं, वो मुझे शास्त्र में मिल रहा है. Shastra Praman. So I try to follow that and see if I can also get the same experience. Now, this is true for everybody, right? Saint Teresa of Avila, Yogananda went to go and meet her and all that, right? She used to have manifestations of stigmata. Every Friday, her hands would open up, her legs would open up. She would have a wound in her side, similar to what Christ manifested on the cross. And they would bleed. And then on Saturday, they would all automatically heal. Now, you go to a doctor, today's world, he will say it is a psychosomatic manifestation. There can be a practical or a so-called scientific explanation for everything then in that case. But it doesn't work that way. There are too many complications in this world that we do not even understand. Hence, you go through that process of looking for that pramana. And when we go to that pramana, then you find that truth which I now perceive might have bigger ramifications, which is why when Yogananda went to Saint Teresa and when he talked about Advaita to her, he says, yes, that is also a possibility. But a person who is going to church every day to take that wafer and dipped in wine and saying, oh, this is the body of Christ, this is the blood of Christ, he will never understand it. He will never understand it because he's at the bottom rung of that ladder. But what is important is that he goes and does that regularly and does what is to be done here, he will move up. But if you are stuck over there, then we have had that. Why do I go to France and to talk about Saint Avila? Let us go down to the south and look at the fights that used to happen between the Vaishnavites and the Shaivites. And the fights were about so stupid things. Huh? Does the ultimate divinity wear the tilak this way or this way? That was the fight. So, you know what happened about that? 2 of them actually having a huge debate on this. Both of them had a lot of faith on Sri Narasimha Bharati, the Param Guru of the present Acharya of Sringeri. So they went there and they asked him, Acharya, please tell us that when Ishvara takes form, does he wear a namam or does he wear a tirunir? Acharya said, I have only seen the feet When I see the forehead, I will tell you. Doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't matter.
So again, I am so Vishu, I mean, very, very right. But our perception of and then the last level of my answer is that Adi Shankaracharya understood that now. And hence he also gave you Mudakara, Tamodakam, and he also gave you Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. He gave you both. He gave you both. Because each of us is tuned differently. You mentioned Setu Madhavan's text, Raghuji. He has written it purely from a Vaishnavite perspective. His entire translation is of Krishna as the body, the physical existence of Krishna.
No. Actually, no. He actually specifically says no. I can forward you that he says in me. He says in me. He says this is not Krishna as the body, but Krishna as the Parabrahman.
No, Krishna is the Parabrahman. Okay, whatever. I may have misinterpreted. But all the Vaishnavite traditional interpretations talk of Krishna's transcendental body.
Yeah.
Right? You can read Bhaktivedanta Swami's Prabhupada's book.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely, yes.
Krishna's transcendental body, whatever, all of that. That is because, so that is a very clear externalization. It's a very, very close similarity to Christianity and the Dvaita Mata. Very close similarity. Very close similarity, except that in the Dvaita Mata, there is still that Catholicity of accepting other things also, which perhaps in the pure traditional Catholic religion, that might not happen. So when we go back to this particular text, where it says that he is Nishkriyaha, he is Nitya Muktaha, and he is Achyutaha. I think this is the last shloka, verse number 28. I think is the last shloka in the Yasadrupa series of shlokas. So he says in that, he says, Nirmalo, Nirmalaha, Nishchalaha, Anantaha, Shuddha, Ajaraha, Amaraha. Descriptions. Nirmalaha. Nirmala, we have already seen, very similar to Niramayaha, that which cannot be dirtied. Nishchalaha. Nishchalaha. Now, Gurudev uses in his text, in his explanation, the question of the finger. Now, my question is like this. Can you go to where you are not? Yes. Jahan main nahi hu, wahi ja sakta hu. Correct? Jahan main hu, wahan ja sakta hu kya? जहां मैं हूं वहां मैं जा सकता हूं क्या?
यदि चित्त स्थिर है तो मैं वहां रह सकती हूँ.
मैं आपको यदि ये कहूं कि आपको मैं सवाई माधोपुर ले जाऊंगा, आप अभी वही हैं, सवाई माधोपुर में ही हैं, मैं आपको बोलता हूं मैं आपको सवाई माधोपुर ले जाऊंगा, तो आपका क्या जवाब होगा? लो, म्यूट पे आप.
मैं वही हूँ.
मैं वही हूं. अब यदि आपको ये बोलूं कि चलिए आपको मैं बंबई ले जाऊंगा, तो आप बोलेंगे हाँ ले जा सकते हो. करेक्ट? क्योंकि आप बंबई में नहीं हैं. मगर यदि आप आततः हैं, if you are आततः, if you have pervaded everything, then
there's no travel.
Then how can you travel? How can you travel?
No travel.
How can I can only go where I am not. But if I'm already there, how can I go there? I cannot go to Powai, right? Parsada, I cannot go to Powai if I am already in Powai. But if I think of myself as limited, then only there is movement. Then only there is movement. Hence, he says, so these are all words which are linked. When you are looking at each word, you find the link with the other words. You look at the word atataha. Because he is atataha, because he is all pervading, he cannot move. Right? So Akbar asked a question. Who is bigger? Allah or Akbar? Now all the courtiers were in problem. क्या बोलेंगे? बोलेंगे यदि अल्लाह बड़ा तो अकबर गुस्सा हो जाएगा, और यदि बोलेंगे अकबर बड़ा तो झूठ बोल रहा है, क्या करें? तो सब कोई चुप. बीरबल हाथ उठाया. हाँ बोलिए बीरबल. अकबर बड़ा है. कैसे? अल्लाह ने तो पूरा दुनिया बनाया, ये बनाया, वो बनाया, और तुम ये बोल रहे हो कि अकबर बड़ा है? बोले हाँ अकबर बड़ा है, क्योंकि अकबर ये बोल सकता है उसके किसी आदमी को, बीरबल को बोल सकता है मेरे राज्य से निकल जाओ. अल्लाह वो नहीं बोल सकता है. अल्लाह किसी को नहीं बोल सकता है कि मेरे राज्य से निकल जाओ, क्योंकि सब कुछ उसी का राज्य है. कितना ब्यूटीफुल आंसर है देखिए. बीरबल एक्चुअली मेड द करेक्ट आंसर by giving both the postulate, both the concepts, right? Allah is so big that you cannot go beyond his kingdom. No, but because of that, he is limited. He cannot drive you out. We are all part of that same Brahman. We have created that identity which says, oh, I am different. I am different. So here he says, Nirmala, Nishchala, Ananta, Shuddha, Ajara, Amara. Ajara, we have already seen, Niramayaha. Amara, Ananta, Amara. So, quiz question. Ananta means what? That which does not die, that which does not end. Amara means that which does not die. Anything that is born will die. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu. Bhagavad Gita. Correct? There is only one thing that is born, that is not born, but dies. Tough question है ये. Easy नहीं है. There is only one thing that is not born, but it dies. Avidya.
Going to say
Avidya.
avidya, but then
Avidya is not gone.
Avidya itself
is not gone. We saw that in Brahma Sutra.
It begins at creation. It begins at creation. Before creation, there is no avidya.
We don't know. No, we don't know, no?
No.
We have no
Before
idea.
creation, there is no avidya. Because it is itself the genesis of creation.
No, there is no creation itself. No, see, the very fact that avidya is the creation. So that is what we learned in Brahma Sutra, if you remember.
So there is no, that is the point. There is no creation.
Entire Adhyasa
So the whole idea of creation itself is avidya.
That's unfortunately we take too much of stretching into the logic and
avidya, and in Brahma Sutra we did this. I may have not asked this specific question, but we talked about this, where he says that avidya eternally existed. He used the term, right? We saw that. Eternally existed, but it can end. It can end. This is the only thing that ends, although it eternally existed. It existed at the point of time of creation, for using Raghu's explanation, or it exists eternally as a part of a Brahman, but it ends when Vidya arises.
But avidya itself is the Vesti level. That is at the individual person. That is at the individual level.
Multiply it. No, it is Maya. Call it Maya.
Maya. So Maya, you can say that it existed for a longer period, but avidya can be actually closed very easily. Not easily, it can be closed by an individual.
I was going to ask you, please show me the easy path. I'm going to try and follow that. So yes, of course, at a Vyashti level, it is Maya. At Avidya. At a Samashti level, it is Maya. And for each individual, Avidya lekar janme. अविद्या लेकर मैं जन्मा. अविद्या अलग से मेरे पास 16th year को अविद्या पैदा हुआ नहीं. There is no point of time in which you can think of. We used exactly this example when we were doing Brahma Sutra. Exactly this example. There was no point in time where I can say that avidya came in at this point of time. It always was there. But I can point out a point of time somewhere, hopefully in the future, where I will say avidya ended. I now know who I am.
Viveka Mukti.
But as Vishu says, it is only ended for you.
Yeah, so exit. It's an exit point for me, no? It's an exit gate. But remember one thing, that exit gate, when you go to a cinema hall, you exited from that gate. Everybody can exit. But if you choose to sit inside, you have chosen to sit inside, there's nothing can be done before you. Which is whatever Sri Krishna says, very, very large number of the population is doing that only.
So I would like to actually address the question that Sri Vishu had raised. Actually, I'm facing the same issue. How do I convince my son that there is a supreme being beyond? Okay. After all, I have trained him in the ways of science. So I cannot now suddenly say, son, I've led you wrong. So now I just was looking at, I wanted to write an essay on why religion. So in this, I was basically, I wanted to break it into three parts. There is a religion for the individual, where it is the spiritual progress he will make as he passes through that religion. But there is also a role for religion, community. The moment the person decides to leave the cave and come and live with a group of individuals, then there are rules that he has accepted a subordination of his personal freedoms to the greater good of the community. So there are some rules. And so religion teaches you the codes of conduct that allows you to follow. But then if all you need to know is that, that's fine. Then you know why religion exists. And that's the reason is for your intellectual growth as well as for the good of the community. Why not then follow it? Okay. Now we come to a third thing, which is we have heard people talk about the Ashtasiddhis. And we don't know that there is the supreme power, but there are people who talk, and every religion talks about these supreme powers of people doing miracles and all that. Let us say it is all hearsay, but what if there is no smoke without a fire? So what if there is some truth to it, and therefore when people start approaching, then what are they approaching? There must be something. Okay,
I'm going to.
Doesn't matter, even if you don't believe in that something, the other two reasons are good enough.
So I'm going to interrupt here for a minute. Number one, I think next session, please bring up the question of these so-called miracles. They are not so-called, they are real-time miracles. I will explain, and I will try to explain what happens at a cosmic level to cause those miracles. Please. So one is वो बताइएगा, मेरे को याद कराइएगा. I will definitely talk about that. The second, I will definitely encourage you to start writing. The more you write, the more it will help you. It may help other people, may not help other people. It will definitely help you. That there is no doubt about that. I mean, the Guru notes that I have been writing and sharing, I don't know what is happening with other people who are reading them. I know what is happening with me. I know that my Sanidhya to Gurudev's feet is becoming closer. So that is something that will always happen. Because it's also a way of manan, right? When you start writing, it is a way of manan. So you start reflecting, you start introspecting. Third question, to your son, you need to start asking him reflective questions. Instead of asking him logical questions, Ask him reflective questions, simple questions like what I've been talking about, right? Your body, mind, intellect went to sleep. When you woke up, you said, I slept. Who was the witness of the sleep? Find out and tell me. Now, he will first try to get into the logical part of saying the brain slept and this and that and all that. So asking questions about saying, where is the mind? The brain is not the mind, right? We all understand that. I mean, even the neuroscientists understand that the brain is not the mind. So what is the mind? Where is the seat of emotions? The emotions are science. Modern day science says that the emotions are caused by emotions affect our body and produce certain hormones. So when you go to exercise, you will get endorphins. When you fall in love, you will get oxytocin. When you get angry, you will have cortisol. But why do I get angry? Science doesn't answer that. Why do I feel love for somebody? Science doesn't answer that. So, but Bhagavad Gita does, no? Chapter 2, verse 62 and 63 very clearly tells you why you feel emotions. So you look at something, you have attachment, that attachment leads to fulfillment or non-fulfillment, that non-fulfillment leads to etc., etc. All of that is there. So the reasoning, if you keep on going into the logic, there is no end to that. Move him away from there and ask him the reflective questions and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? One Manan question that I want you to think about through the week is, think of the relationship. This is an old analogy that I have used a number of times. Think of the relationship between the wave, the ocean, and water. What are the relationships? How do these relationships intermingle? How do they work with each other? That is something that I want you to think about. चलिए end करते हैं. शांति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम. I will send the recording as soon as it is developed.